It is Friday, June 27th. I'm Geoff Schwartz. That is Matt Ford. This is Geoff Schwartz. Is Smarter Than You. Welcome in on this summer Friday. Hope you guys will have a great weekend forthcoming listening to this podcast as well. Please rate, review, subscribe as usual. We really appreciate that. Matt, how you doing, buddy?
Great to see you, pal. Feel like it's been a few weeks where we take our
Yeah,
little downtime in the summer, as most football shows tend to do. So it's nice to see you.
it's good to see you as well. Of course, we talk throughout the week, even when we're not recording a podcast. It does um, feel like we got balls soon. Now, I'll tell you why, and we'll talk about this more in depth later. But the preview magazines for college football are out. Like
Yeah,
it is time to talk about college football. It's time to talk about the NFL. And we'll hit all those today. Maybe we'll throw in some fun things. I'll tell you this. Look, so O-Line Masterminds is a offensive line seminar, Matt, that we put on each and every year. It's our eighth year. Will be in about 2 weeks. And
nice.
the tight end U, which I'm sure you've seen, right, with all the tight ends, they're fairly new, 4 or 5 years old. And we're not in competition per se because it's Travis Kelce and Kittle and Greg Olsen. Like it's hard to compete with those guys. Um, but any competition we had, Matt, was lost when Taylor Swift showed up this weekend or last weekend to the Tight End U concert. I'm imploring Duke, and maybe you guys can send suggestions to me at Jeff Schwartz on Twitter. Like, who is our Taylor Swift? Who is our person that we can have at our O-line masterminds to go viral? That's what I'm working on the next couple of weeks.
Maybe we just need we just need to glamorize the offensive line position a bit. Like maybe, Penei Sewell needs to start dating Sabrina Carpenter. Like maybe that's what needs to
That
happen. Like
yeah,
just sort of we
yeah.
just go right at it.
If Sabrina showed the thing about the offensive line though is I have a feeling that if the 200 of us or 300 of us, about like 300 of us, are sitting in the room and Sabrina Carpenter showed up,
That would be
the
insane.
the percent of people that know who she is what?
I
5% of people there?
She also is probably like the size of your like foot to knee. Like
Correct.
she's probably that height.
Look, I would imagine that the people that know who she is all have young daughters.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like if you don't have a child, I would imagine, and you're 28 years old,
I don't
I
know. I
you
think
think
she's
so?
famous enough. Like I can name more Sabrina Carpenter songs than Taylor Swift songs. Is that weird?
Yes,
I can name. So this is well, you can't like you can't have opinions about musical artists, but I
you
do feel like
can.
they're well, I don't need to step in any beehives if you catch my reference there. But I think
We go down that road. We
but
probably
I
shouldn't,
think
but
there are some pop stars that talk more to their same gender or the other gender. And I feel like Taylor Swift maybe is more often singing to women and Sabrina
yes.
Carpenter is maybe singing to men. Do you know what I mean? Like
That's
whether
a
that's
very
implied or direct.
well, it's also just that's a very good way to put it. Um, like when you see Sabrina Carpenter's performances and her videos, it certainly would lend to that. Um, I the the Beehive country music thing, we don't have time for on this podcast. It's just not country
Good
music.
luck, buddy.
It's just not
Floor is
country.
yours. I have no opinion on this.
It's just not country music. Why can't we just agree on that? Why can't we agree as a society, Matt? It's not country music. I don't even listen to country music, but I know what it sounds like. It's
Yeah,
not country
yeah,
music.
it's fair.
Okay.
Noted famous country song Blackbird. I
Yeah.
hear you.
All right. Let's get back to the NFL. Um, Interesting story this week. And I'll start us off here and I'll let you fill in the details. I know that you've studied up on this, so I'm glad to talk to you about this. So, Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, and Pablo Torre um, released essentially a story that the NFL and the NFLPA had been in arbitration over a claim of collusion, which we talk about, or we throw the word out collusion a lot, right? Which essentially means that a business or entity, right, is um, attempting to what, Matt, stifle the free market
Yeah.
as a conglomerate when they're not supposed to. And it happens often in sports. We've seen it, like Colin Kaepernick, for example. He didn't win his collusion case, but he won $10 million ish from the NFL for claiming that they colluded together, all the teams, to not sign him after he took a knee. Okay. Now, it's hard to prove collusion any single time. It's why it's not proven very often. just talking other sports like Barry Bonds. Was he colluded against not come back after he got older and the steroid allegations got a little longer and he wasn't as good anymore? Like, were teams going to sign him anymore or not? Like, just talk about things like that happening, right? And the arbitrator ruled essentially that when the Deshaun Watson deal happened with Cleveland, remember, Cleveland gave him a fully guaranteed contract. The NFL told the other NFL owners, so like the management committee, told them, we're not doing this deal anymore. Do not give players this much guaranteed money. Now, the arbiter actually ruled against the NFLPA and said there wasn't enough evidence that they followed this line of thinking when giving future contracts to NFL players. So two things there, right? The arbiter admitted there was a thought of collusion, but that didn't actually happen. All right, Matt. So this story is getting no traction because no one cares. And I get it. If you're an average Joe, like, why do you care if there's a fight between Lamar Jackson getting $180 million guaranteed or 230? It's not a fight that you really care about. But I think you listened to Pablo Torre's podcast. You studied up on this. What are your thoughts just from like the basic story? And then I'll talk about kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah. Well, first, shout out to Pablo and his team. We're friends with them. Great. I mean, amazing that they got all this information along with Florio. So shout out to them. I think a few things. I mean, I think I think the reason it's not getting traction is I don't think it's surprising to people, maybe because of the Kaepernick thing, but also I think the idea that, very wealthy people might not always have everyone else's interests in mind is a theme in our world these days. But also I think you're right too. Like the fact that, I mean, Russell Wilson was an example in these documents that have come out that, and actually I thought was interesting in Pablo's, reporting was basically he was up for a big contract with Denver at the time, right?
Yes.
And he didn't pursue a fully guaranteed contract. And I forget who said it. It was maybe the GM of the Broncos, like called him a wuss.
No, it
Basically.
was actually the head of the NFLPA.
Head of the NFLPA. Was it
Yeah,
Treader?
it was the player rep. Yeah, Treader. Yeah.
Yeah. So like right there, it's sort of like, well, that ended up being a thing that kind of undermined the case of the players union. But I find the fact that, the central characters in this are really interesting. Like if anyone other than Deshaun Watson had gotten this deal, Deshaun Watson, obviously with his off the field problems, then his on the field problems, and the fact that it's Cleveland, which sort of has its own reputation as a team. And then the next two are Russell Wilson and Lamar Jackson, who both are, kind of perfectly oriented to break this system, right? Like Russell Wilson at the time, he was this, Super Bowl winning quarterback, but people were a little divided. And then Lamar Jackson, I remember us talking about it at the time, like, why aren't teams like, falling all over themselves to
Yeah.
unload their draft picks for him? But, apparently there was a little bit of confusion about that, including how he negotiated and, his phone even. But I
Yeah.
just thought that the thing I keep wondering is if the contract had been given to someone other than Deshaun Watson, would this whole thing have been different?
Yes. So let's explain how the contracts work in the NFL for those who might not know. It's worth explaining, right? So basically, let's say a player signs in 2024, okay? And then in 2025, the agent or the player looks at the contract last signed by the player at that position, says, I want that contract and more, right? So typically, like if 2024, if Matt got as a quarterback got $10, Geoff Schwartz next year wants $11, right? And that's typically the way contracts have worked. The next guy up gets the most money. We often talk about why did Brock Purdy get so much money or why did Tua get so much money? They're just next up. That's the way the contract structure has worked for quarterback. Now, it works that way a lot for left tackle and right tackle and for cornerback and linebacker. The next guy up gets the most money. And what made Deshaun Watson's deal so unique was it was fully guaranteed. And to my knowledge, only two quarterbacks had fully guaranteed deals at signing. And there's a difference between fully guaranteed and guaranteed just for like injury and skill, right? Guys can have fully guaranteed deals, but it's not really guaranteed for skill, just for injury, right? So this was fully guaranteed. Deshaun Watson and Kirk Cousins, which is
Kirk
kind
Cousins,
of the
yep.
exact opposite type of person and player, but
Yeah.
nonetheless, like that's it. Okay. And at the time when the contract happened, all of us said, what are the Browns doing? What type of contract? The Browns had all the leverage in this spot and gave him an historic NFL deal. And we said at the time, I think, Matt, like, there's just no way this is ever going to be the future of the NFL. And then guess what? It wasn't the future of the NFL. And that's sort of why it's sort of a non-story too. It's like everyone agreed the Sean Watson deal was terrible. The NFL owners just said it out loud. Hey guys, this deal sucks. How about we don't do that deal anymore? And then they just didn't do that deal anymore. So that's why
Yeah.
I think it's not that big of a story. That's why I think like collusion in this situation is really hard to prove, right? Because Watson's deal is clearly the outlier of NFL history quarterback deals.
Right.
So it's not like Lamar Jackson, who's next up, didn't get a fair market deal. He got if you erase Watson's deal, he got the most for the next quarterback up. And to be fair, he got the most ever for a quarterback in totality of his contract. It wasn't all guaranteed like Watson. And then Kyler Murray, by the way, that same summer, got again a big contract that was in line with what quarterbacks should get of his caliber. And it's and then in the documents there was a comment from I think I'm right on this, and one owner, I forget which one, I think it was Dean Spanos, who's the Chargers owner,
To Bidwell.
the Bidwell saying like, "Thank you for not giving him fully guaranteed money,"
Yeah.
and they're framing this like a gotcha moment. It's after the fact.
Yeah.
How's that a gotcha moment? He didn't unless they have evidence beforehand. But congratulating someone after for doing a contract that was good for your business to me is not that's just business. Like it's just that's what business is. And you said in the beginning, it's interesting, right? You said that we assume there's a little bit of sliminess happening. Yeah, we do. I'm actually looking forward. So Pablo Torre put out. I got a long car ride to the beach after this. He put out a podcast with David Sampson, former president of the Mets, right? I mean Marlins, right? I believe, and
Yep.
then Dominique Foxworthy, who's awesome, who's former president of the NFLPA. They did a podcast on this together. I've always seen a tweet from Mike Golick Jr. saying he can't stand David on the podcast because he's going to be very pro owner, right? Of course. And I'm curious to hear what they talk about because it'd be good to hear both sides here. But in the end, like I think we all assume this is happening, and but I want to be very clear. Like I don't think the Ravens giving Lamar Jackson the most money ever for a quarterback, while not guaranteeing the whole contract, is some form of collusion, Matt. Like I just don't think that's collusion. He got the most money ever. It just wasn't guaranteed. It was commensurate with the other deals that were done in the NFL. They ignored Deshaun Watson's contract, and I just I don't know how big of a story this is because guys are still getting paid as much money as they should. Like no one's contract has been depressed. Now, yes, you can argue the guaranteed money is not there, but I've argued this for a while. Like if you're a quarterback and you're healthy, you're getting all your dollars. Like the guaranteed money is only in place if you blow your leg out and never play football again.
Right.
If you are just a decent quarterback, you're seeing every single dollar of that contract. And then 2 years in, you rip it up and you get a new deal anyways. So Mike Flores is going to make this a thing. He hates the NFL. He's going to try his best to make this a thing. But Matt, I don't view it as that big of a deal. If we find information that like they decide to pay guys less in general, but also too like Lamar Jackson didn't get less guaranteed money than the previous guy before Watson. He just got less. He just didn't get his contract fully guaranteed, which is not a right in the CBA anyway. So, oh no, man, I don't really know if this is that big of a deal, and that's why no one seems to really care at all.
Yeah. Well, it's also, I mean, contracts and all this stuff are complicated, and it's hard to say. It's hard for the normal average person to be too concerned with someone making, $200 million. I think, one thing that's interesting to me is that the NBA does guarantee its contracts. I mean, there's some exceptions, but
They
you
suppose
know,
too.
Joel Embiid's going to make, $70 million in
Yeah.
29 or whatever. I think both of those figures are wrong, but you get my example. And I think it's surprising to me that the NFL, which has more injury risk, recent Achilles tears aside, and brings in more revenue, that's
Yeah.
not a thing. I imagine the next CBA, which is in the 2030 area, that will probably come up, especially now with this. But is that was that something that has been talked about like among NFL players, or how does that sort of, how do NFL players kind of square that?
In 2029, Joel Embiid makes $70 million.
Oh wow, that was exactly correct. That was weird.
His cap hit is 69,065,472.
Yeah, that's the old he's got a player option that year. Good news, he's already opted in. I think he's going to take that.
Those are my favorite NBA. They're like, is he going to take the $1 billion player option? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, guys. Back to you at the studio. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
like,
we can announce it here on
like,
our show.
I just saw Austin Reeves declined I think a contract extension for $80 million when he could be a free agent and make like 270 million. Like, that's shocking news. He declined the $200 million less offer from the Lakers. What a
Yeah,
surprise.
exactly.
What a surprise. If you had to guess how much Joel Embiid has made in his career, oh my God.
Already,
Wow.
or
Yeah. Oh my God.
a couple hundred mil. I mean, his contract hasn't even really started. Like I think it was the first
The
year.
256 million.
And yeah, but I guess that's before, geez.
That's
But
before the
yeah, I
next
mean,
that
these NBA players are
That's
like
before
lapping.
he's due 55 next year,
Yeah.
59, 64, and he's going to make in total $513 million in his career. Oh,
So
eh,
I mean, this isn't a perfect comparison, but he's an MVP. Uh, you know, he's clearly, maybe not clearly. Sorry, Philly fans, but you've had enough good stuff. He's probably washed. He's, entering his 30s pretty soon. This is an NFL podcast. Excuse me for not having his bio memorized. But it's kind of reminiscent of Russell Wilson, right?
yeah,
Like, but the discrepancy in the money that these guys get is crazy. So, the fact that the NBA players, granted, they obviously have more games, but the NFL players have
yeah,
way more at risk. I'm surprised that this is the
yeah.
way it is. Like, I'm surprised that the players haven't been able to negotiate fully guaranteed
So
money, especially just considering
yeah,
the profits that this league brings in.
so it's worth noting that I think I'm right on this still. They've had different versions of CBAs and NBA and Major League Baseball, but I think there's actually no language in the CBA that guarantees their contracts, Matt. It's just like that's what the league is.
In the NBA, you
It's
mean?
like, yeah, there's no, in the NBA CBA, I don't think it says anything about guaranteed money. I think it's just common practice that all your money is guaranteed. I'm
Oh,
fairly certain about that. Same with
I th
baseball.
I think it guarantees at a certain date in the year, if I remember correctly,
Okay.
like in
Well,
January.
I know the NFL does that as well. Like if you're on the roster, the second week of the year, your money's guaranteed for the year. Um, the this is the hard part about these negotiations, right? With the CBA is you have 1,700 players, right? The average career span is 3 years. I went through a CBA negotiation in 2011, and were locked out. I was entering my fourth season, and I get it. Like, do I want to miss paychecks? Because you have to sit out games to get what you want in the NFL. That's what every other league has ever done. Baseball's done it. Basketball's done it. You have to sit out games. Am I willing to miss, I don't know, a percent of my overall career earnings in this small window I have, so players after I retire get guaranteed contracts? Like that's what the NFL players I think have. That's the hardest part about this negotiation.
Yeah.
You have all these guys that really it's difficult for them to envision losing money to then let another generation make money, right? Take
Yeah.
sacrifice for that. And the NBA and baseball, you play for a long time. Like if you're a superstar, you play forever. So if we miss 30 games, you've already made. We talk about if Joel Embiid missed 30 games, he's already made $250 million.
Yeah. Well, I
Like,
mean, it's
and so that's why I think it's really difficult for players to do the necessary steps. They would have to strike, right? You have to not show up and cost the NFL a month of television revenue for not playing in September for them to even get to the table and even talk about guaranteed contracts.
the thing that I find interesting, and we can don't have to spend the whole show on this topic, but I find like someone, let's just say like who had various destinations, like I imagine that for 90% of the NFL roster, it would not be hard to guarantee the contracts of the backup running back or whatever, if you make the team. That's the part of this fight that I think could have some legs. Is I don't think people feel super bad for the quarterbacks. Josh Allen just broke Deshaun Watson's record for guaranteed money. Uh, 2 years before or 4 years before his contract was even up. The quarterbacks, the star quarterbacks, are going to be fine. The question I have is like, will this start maybe downstream for
Yeah.
the other 52 guys on the roster?
We're seeing this a little bit in the draft where so the first round picks have had their contracts guaranteed for a while now, and not the second round picks. And this year, pick 33 and 34, so the top 10 got guaranteed contracts. And the
Yeah.
rest of the second round is not signed yet because they're negotiating guaranteed contracts as well. And it just takes years to actually get this to work the way you want, unless you put in the CBA, of course, which again, players I think a lot of times are going to turn down the tough part about negotiations to make their money now and not worry about later. It's I mean it's selfish, but I get it. I don't disagree with that mindset. Again, I was a younger player. I totally get where they're coming. The other thing, Matt, that I think would make a big difference in the NFL's ability to the NFLPA's ability to really take action in the way that they need to is in the other sports leagues. Um, their superstars are part of the union. Um, and in the NFL, it's not the case.
Hmm.
Um, and it's a big difference, right? Like I'm gonna pull it up right now. I know PA. I wanna see if I can find. Here we go. So the NBA leadership for the NFLPA. Um, it's CJ McCollum, right? Who's the president right now. Jalen Brown, Donovan Mitchell, um, Carl Anthony Towns, like superstars are
Yeah.
on the executive committee, right? Um, and it's not that case in the NFL. Um, and if Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson are on the NFLPA, like that would make I think a huge difference in
Hmm.
just the way to negotiate, right? Um, so that to me is a big like if we had superstars really take a role in it, I think it would go a little bit differently when you have
Hmm.
these big dogs in charge of negotiations.
That's so interesting. Yeah, well, I mean, there have been plenty of takes that basically say like, yeah, the NBA got this great, we're saying it's maybe a little more player friendly, but uh, they negotiated this CBA that has this whole second apron thing. So now like free agency kind of is going to be depressed is the theory. So it's all hard to figure this out. And I think we both are rooting for players to get their fair share and not get screwed. But I think this is one of those like this could be a real problem, and maybe it is. But you know, the fact that the quarterback market continues to reset, that the guarantees still do roll in for the ones who deserve it, I think is noteworthy. The thing that I found to be so interesting though was I think if you just talked about Lamar Jackson, like that story, I think still is like one of the weirdest NFL stories ever. Like, and it just continued to get even weirder, because the so many of these teams passed on the chance to potentially trade for him. He had
Yeah,
that odd franchise tag, right, where the teams could have made the offers. There was this document where he says, his microphone on his phone didn't work for some reason, so it was hard for him to negotiate. Like, that's just like a really weird wrinkle in the story. Is there anything about the Lamar Jackson thing specifically
yeah.
that comes to mind for you?
Okay, so Matt, I think there's two separate stories here, right? There's why didn't teams trade for Lamar? Then the collusion didn't get a full guarantee. I think those are not related, to be honest with you. Um, I think teams looked at Lamar, who had some injury history, and just didn't want to give up multiple draft picks and give him as much money as he wanted. I think it's that simple. And you might disagree with that decision, but that's the way teams. I don't think that a team like the Falcons, for example, were like, you know what? The NFL management committee said we can't give him a guaranteed contract. We're not going after him. I like what they
Yeah,
like if you would have given so to trade two first round picks and then give him this monster deal is a lot for some people, for some
yeah,
teams, and they just don't want to do it. I know those are two separate stories. One is that Lamar didn't get a full contract that he deserved based off of the Sean Watson deal, and then another story is, well, why didn't teams want him in the first place?
yeah,
So I think those are two separate things. I know people won't try to conflate them to make it to make it even more scandalous, but I just unless there's evidence that that we find that the Falcons or Colts explicitly wanted him and want to give him a full guaranteed deal, and the NFL said no, then I think they just for whatever reason thought it was too rich to spend on Lamar Jackson.
yeah. Well, it's funny now. I mean, it looks really ridiculous now, but
Oh,
Lamar,
it looks dumb.
yeah. I mean, this request, just for a little context, I had to look it up myself. He won the MVP in 2019. His trade request was in 2023.
Yeah,
Since then, he won the MVP again, and then
correct.
could have won it, and came in second. He split it this year. The Writers Association gave him the MVP this year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, clearly he's proven people wrong. And at the time, we are on the right side of history. You and I have spent multiple podcasts saying, Falcons, what are you doing? Commanders, what are you doing? Multiple other teams. Those are the two that came to mind. But I will say it's nice to good timing for another, good timing for Commanders fans. Like our owner for sure has got to be in that. Our old owner's got to be in there somewhere, but no one cares because Dan Snyder is finally gone, thankfully. So glad to get a clean record there from my once terrible team. I'm watching
I,
you maybe send a photo of this or so maybe a
no,
text. What's how we doing over there?
something else. Cross my desk. I multitask.
Across the battle station.
Speaking about Washington,
Yeah.
how was the Wizards draft? Did the Wizards draft well?
We were one guy away from the guy everyone wanted. So, that's how it goes every year.
You were second?
No, we were sixth,
Oh,
and this guy Ace
you wanted
Bailey
Ace Bailey.
fell,
You wanted Ace Bailey.
and he
Yeah.
clearly wanted to go there because the reason players want to go to Washington is they're so bad that they know they'll get their shots. So instead he went to Utah, which, careful what you wish for, buddy. But Utah, people are going to bag on Utah.
He didn't want to
Utah's
go to
nice.
Utah at all.
No, he
Dude,
didn't.
one of my most interacted tweets in like months was about Ace Bailey and Rutgers. Like it has, I'll pull up right here. It has 164 retweets and 3,000 likes. And
Oh,
because
Elon must have liked that one.
well, Rutgers had two players drafted in the top five,
Correct.
and they won 8 games in the conference last season.
Yeah, missed the tournament. It's
How's that
crazy.
possible?
It's crazy. I
That makes
know.
me do wonder if Ace Bailey and I think it's Dylan is the first guy. I forget who's
Harper.
Dylan Harper are like actually any good.
Yeah, it's raises some questions.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie.
All I know is my Lakers drafted someone. And I saw a tweet that was like, "This is a perfect fit for the Lakers." I'm like, sign me up. Great, great, great. Um, I did not watch the draft. Do you know the draft was 2 nights?
I learned about it. I did, and then I forgot, and then I was reminded after I saw your tweet that said that posed that question. I don't know why the second round of the draft needs a second night. It's not like the NFL draft where you're still getting starters in round two.
I'm reading. I think like in the entire second round, only one, two, three, four guys didn't get traded afterwards.
Wow,
Um,
bananas.
are we doing a riff on Stephen A's coverage on the draft or leave that to someone else?
I think we can leave that to someone else.
Someone
You
else.
can say whatever you want.
No, I just don't. I tend to tweet that I don't get who it's for. I like the reason why the NFL draft is so good is you have, of course, it's a different sport, but like the people that are on the telecast, all they do is draft 24/7. Like Dan Jeremiah, Mel Kiper, Matt Miller, these guys just live and breathe draft. Like that's all those guys do 24/7.
They're doing it right now.
And they're doing it right now. It's for the season. And like, I'm sure the NBA can find more guys that can do that, that can articulate and put, and be good on television and not just stick with the same people all the time covering the draft that cover the regular season and the playoffs. Like, just give us draft people.
Yeah.
That's what I want to know. Give us draft people.
I think two problems if we're talking about this. The first is I think the NBA prospects are often these like total hunks of clay now. Like you are more valuable if you are younger and worse than if you're older and better in a lot of
Correct.
cases. Like Walter Clayton is a better player right now than Ace Bailey. Obviously, though, he was going later, you know? So I think it's like harder to explain, especially with these foreign guys, like, well, they're this, that, like different. But the other thing that's so weird is like, imagine if the NFL draft was like on President's Day. Like the idea that the season ends and then 2 seconds later you're thinking about like the Pelicans and the Jazz. It's strange. Like the NFL does something so well, which is like you're in the season, and then the season, like every year I forget, there's like 6 bad weeks where you're like, I don't even want to watch any of these games. Like I have
Correct.
to, but I don't even want to. And then you get to this time of year and you're like, dude, I would do anything to watch Daniel Jones play, you know, Tyler Shuck. Like I would do anything to watch that game right now. But we can't. They make their scarcity, right? Like in this world of like everything's available all the time, like the NFL makes us miss it. And
Yeah.
that's so rare in today's world. And I think it's just driving the desire for football even higher because once we have it, we're like, oh my God, we got to enjoy this. Well, we have it. It's only, 22 weeks.
Dude, NBA Summer League is like next week. I actually was thinking about this
Yeah.
today. Like, because I was thinking about like how quickly do players who get drafted start their season. And like WNBA player is the worst. You play your college season, you get drafted, you like go to training
Start
camp
right
and you
away.
play like
Yep.
in a month. Baseball, you join in the middle of the season. You get drafted
Yeah.
and just go to the
Right.
minor leagues, but
Yep.
then you get off in September. Like you're done like after that, right? But now you might play winter ball and stuff like that. NBA, you go right to summer league, and then you start your season in October. So you do get a break after summer league. But football sort of like NBA, you go to OTAs immediately, basically, right? And then you get off a month or two and go back to camp. Yeah, I didn't know it was on Wednesday till like Tuesday, and I didn't know it was 2 days till the next day. I was looking for because you know what I was doing. I woke up. I was thinking Thursday morning. I was looking at the first round. Now I told you this before. I think I read every single NFL draft grades. Like I read all of them. I love the grade stuff. I was doing it for the NBA. I was looking for the Lakers, who I know didn't have a first round pick. I was like, oh, let me see the second round. Did they grade the Lakers picks? Hadn't happened yet. I was like, wait, what's happening now? Also, too, you know, I know people are talking a lot about the reaction of the players in the draft, Matt, and how they didn't seem as excited as years past. And I certainly think that the NIL money is playing a role in that, right? Um, People seem so fixated on it. I just didn't care at all. Like
Yeah.
like whatever. Oh, they're not happy. Went to the Jazz. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't want to live in Salt Lake City either. I mean, I actually think Salt Lake City is fine, but I didn't mind.
Great airport.
I didn't mind those things. But people seem really put off. I'll tell you one thing that was odd about NBA recently, and this is I don't know even know. I wonder if Nick touched on this in his podcast. Um, did you notice when the Thunder won the championship, there was like no celebration?
Yeah. Yeah.
At the time, I was going to tweet about it, but I figured I didn't want NBA Twitter to attack me because people are so territorial on this stuff. They didn't celebrate. Like, what was up with that? It was their first championship. They didn't
Yeah,
like.
man.
I was very surprised. Is it because it was the Halliburton thing? They're like, we don't deserve it. I was like in awe. No one celebrated. Go guys, go back and watch the Thunder. No one celebrated. Like hockey, they have a dog pile. Football, it's like a huge celebration. Um, Baseball, they go, run and dog pile on the pitcher's mound. There was like nothing. I was very, very surprising.
Do you want an opinion? I have one.
Oh yeah, let's hear.
Well, my opinion here is that, a lot of people have been giving Sam Presti a lot of love. So I'll give him another compliment. And that's that he knows the kind of player who's going to thrive in a team first culture in Oklahoma City. Like
Fair,
you're
yeah.
not getting like I went there last year and when I was driving, I actually thought it was like a really fun place and it had like a nice small town feel. The restaurants were great, prices were great. Like everyone was super nice, but I remember thinking like I can't believe like Kevin Durant lived here. Do you know what I mean? Not
Yeah.
because it's not a nice place, but because it's not a place where I can imagine a lot of like international superstars being
Yeah,
born
yeah,
out
that's
of.
fair. Yeah.
And historically, that obviously is proven out. Whereas, obviously that's a little different in the NFL with, Mahomes or someone is like a prime example. But I think that to succeed in Oklahoma City, you kind of need to not care about things like parties. Do you know what I mean? Even if you're 22 years old, like
I,
I think that you have to find, and I wonder if this is true of like Buffalo. Do you know what I mean? Like if you kind of need to find people who are
I,
going to buy into that, maybe more than the big city lifestyle.
but I get that,
That was a
and
great take.
it was a great take, and I understand it up until you win a championship. And when you win a
Sure.
championship, like it's okay to be emotional. Like
Totally.
it's
Yeah,
okay
yeah.
to like I think up until that point, yes. And I think SGA embodies that. I mean, SGA never seemed too high, too low, like right in the middle. But like no one celebrated. It's like it wasn't like Hardenstein was like sort of jumping up and down. Like he's been, I think
Yeah.
he's like the oldest guy, him and Caruso. Otherwise, like that was just like it was like, oh well, okay, cool. I don't know. It was interesting
Hartenstein's
to,
son. See him?
yeah, yeah.
I
Like
love that.
it just seemed, it just was odd. I thought.
Yeah.
All right, that's enough NBA coverage for the day.
I
You gonna do-
well, I can I ask this? You played,
Yeah.
let's pick two teams. That you played for the Giants and you
Yes.
played for the Panthers.
Yes.
Was there like a different, did it feel different in terms of
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So here's, it's interesting. You mentioned that. Um, the Giants were different because when you walk in the building, they have four Lombardi trophies in the lobby, right?
sure,
And and their ownership
did they
group,
when you were there?
no,
Right.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
buddy. I'll tell you what, if I had a
They
Super
had
Bowl ring,
they had two when you were there, I think, or maybe three.
they had no, they had four by the time I got there.
Oh,
They
interesting.
won.
Okay.
I got there in 14. And
Yeah,
so
yeah, right,
if
right,
I
right.
was part of one of those, we'd have a title sponsor. Okay.
Yeah, I think we would.
Yeah. Okay. We can still have a title sponsor, by the way. If someone would like to hop in, you have about, I don't know, 15 minutes to a phone call I'm about to have. But until then, you have time to hop in. Is like the Giants, when you walk in that building, you feel the winning, right? Like you feel it. And again,
Yeah.
I wasn't part of a Super Bowl team, but I was Coughlin would coach both those teams and the general manager. And I mean, everyone had been through all that, the coaching staff and whatnot. And you feel that, right? Looking back on my other places I've been at, you just didn't feel that because you didn't win it. Those places never, Carolina had no Super Bowl, Minnesota. I mean, maybe I forget if they had a Super Bowl like in Super Bowl three or something. I think they lost that game. And
Minnesota
then
doesn't have any,
and
yeah.
yeah, and then Detroit didn't have it. And Kansas City at the time, they had one in like 1960, right? Like they didn't Super Bowl four, I think it was. So it wasn't like they have it now. So you certainly the is different, but the celebration after a win was the same. It's hard to win the NFL. Like I mentioned this before, like the only thing I miss about the NFL is the feeling after you win for like 15 minutes before you start thinking about the sack you gave up or the bad block you had. It was like 15 minutes where you just are walking the tunnel and you're just so euphoric. You're one because the work you put in all week, right? It's a long week of work. Your body's beat to shit after a game, and you're just like, hell yeah, we won. And you walk in the locker room and ownership is there. Everyone handshakes. Every coaches are happy. They're all high fiving each other. And like there's and then like you do the the post game speech and you do the prayer typically, then like that's it, right? Like everyone just gets showered and goes home, and that feeling ends pretty quickly. But that 15-20 minutes is awesome. And OKC just didn't seem to cherish it at all. And I know I never won a championship. I would have acted differently, but I'm not in the NBA, and um, I just maybe because
Not
again
yet, Jeff.
maybe not maybe because they were gonna win after Halliburton got hurt. I guess. Um, can
Hmm.
we stop showing like some of those injuries? I think it's possible.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think, yeah.
yeah, I think it's up. All right, Matt. You texted me earlier. I was like, I don't know what we're going to talk about. It's been like 45 minutes now. So,
Yeah, we talk
uh,
mostly about contracts in the NBA.
uh,
Do you want to quickly do, the show description has Aaron Rodgers in it. We can kick
oh, is
him
he
to
okay?
next week.
Is he actually married? Do we know this for certain?
He was asked, this was something that you mentioned Nick Wright. I think we mention him every show. He said something to the effect of like, look closely at his language. Like he said he was wearing a wedding ring. He didn't say he got married. Like, could he be pulling another vaccinated, immunized thing on
But why would
us?
you wear a wedding ring if you are not married?
Why would you say you're immunized when
He's
when you're
he,
asked if you're vaccinated? Like, I don't know.
is he married to the game?
Dude, the thing that he said that's so crazy was he was like, I can't wait to be out of the public eye, like so that I can finally stop getting so much attention. And he said that on a voluntary television appearance. Like the guy is just so unbelievable.
I saw someone put out a tweet like someone was defending him, and they put out a screenshot of Aaron Rodgers like being considered to be a running mate for VP for RFK.
Yeah,
You're like, he loves attention. It's not
correct.
going to stop.
Yeah, he's cooked. Um, and I don't know. Do you want to briefly
Yeah.
NF win totals,
Oh, that
Dallas
was
Cowboys
yeah.
cheerleaders,
Oh.
furniture and hotels, whatever you want.
I is the cheerleader show good?
Okay, where's my camera? Here's my camera.
We're gonna end with this.
This Cowboys cheerleader show thank you, John, is the perfect couple show. If
Okay.
you're wondering what to watch and maybe you don't want to do the Bear for whatever reason that just came out, watch this show. It is a incredibly well done documentary from the guys who did Last Chance U,
Okay.
which if you watch that show, not a football show. I mean, it also did basketball Last Chance U, but that was not a football show. You could watch that with your spouse, your girlfriend, whatever. Uh, this Cowboys cheerleader thing is the same. It is designed to it washes over you because it's kind of a reality show, but it's kind of football and it's cheerleaders, which are interesting people.
Yeah.
Really good to watch for couples. Thank me later.
Okay. Interesting insight there. It wasn't on my menu to watch. Okay, I'm gonna tell you this
These
story.
these
Uh,
people are intense.
okay.
These cheerleaders,
Oh,
like,
I'm gonna tell you this story about what we're watching right now at home,
okay,
and it's gonna give you good insight into my wife. I know she's probably gonna hate that I share this, but no one's listening. It doesn't matter. Um, if you're listening, please rate, review, and subscribe.
please.
So my wife went to Mexico last weekend for her birthday. She just turned 40. Congratulations. And the the last night they're there, they're renting a house like in Cancun, south of
Okay,
Cancun, like by Playa del Carmen. And the power went out for a couple hours. Okay. I had this call on my phone from her friend. Hey, it's Maria. The power went out. I was dead asleep. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. Dead asleep. I wake up in the morning. Everything's fine. But my wife said that they immediately thought that they were going to get snatched. Like 8 women in this house, the power's out, we're getting snatched. And I was like,
okay.
they're not snatching you. They're not doing that. So she came home and said, I want to watch Sicario to see what it's like to get snatched. I was like, oh,
Sicario.
okay. So we watched it together, and then we're watching the second one now in like 25-minute increments before she falls asleep every night. But she decided that based off the power going out in her mind, they were getting snatched by Sicarios, I guess. I've now convinced her to watch Sicario with me, which is not a movie she would ever like. She sits there and watches the entire thing without commentary. I don't understand her sometimes.
I didn't know that was what Sicario was about.
It's not at all about that.
I was gonna say,
That's the best thing about it. It has nothing to do with that. And
yeah,
she decided to come home and like, I want to watch Sicario now. I was like, oh, okay,
okay,
okay, sure. Sign me up for that. But like
solid cast. I'm in.
that's how she thinks. It makes no sense.
Well, at least you got to watch a good movie. Uh, I don't have a ton to add to that.
Yeah, I don't
That's
know how to
that's
explain her mind. Like that's her mind works like that. So Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. I gotta watch Bear season 4 is out now.
Yep.
Squid Game's final season just came out.
Oh, I still haven't watched season 2. Okay.
Um, what the Bear last season? I don't know. It was okay. I didn't like it as much as other people did. Hope the season's
Yeah,
better.
I wasn't a big fan either.
Hope the season's better. Um, that's a review of shows we've watched.
It's
I want.
June.
Oh, dude. Last thing. Tires is my humor.
Okay, I
Uh,
haven't seen this show yet, but everyone
buddy,
loves it.
buddy, in season two, they do this HR meeting, and it is one of the funniest things. It's The Office essentially, but like cruder and dumber people that are in the show, if that makes
Perfect.
sense. Like it's The Office. They're tire sales or auto sales or their body shop, I should say, that sells parts too. Um, it's it's incredible. It's so funny, and they've Shane's in there, and is it Stravos?
Stavo. Yeah, Stavi. Yeah.
He's good too, and it's funny, dude. I very much enjoy it. But it's look, my kids are going to camp July 7th for a month. I will
Wow.
need stuff to watch.
Well, that we will definitely have things to talk about. And by then we'll be doing our over-unders for real.
Oh yeah,
Studying
I
has
can't wait.
begun.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, look forward to that.
All right, buddy. Um, we'll talk to you guys next week. I'm gonna talk to you in like 5 minutes, but
Yeah.
otherwise, we'll talk to you guys next week, everyone. Actually, we won't next week. Next week's July 4th.
Oh
So
yeah. Cool. We'll be back
we'll,
after that.
we're back after that. Then it's my birthday. So we'll figure it out. We'll
Hell
be back at
yeah.
some point this summer. We will do what we've done, I think, in the past. So just a heads up real quick. Um, we're gonna preview every division like we've done in the past. Come probably August-ish, maybe early July, late July. We'll preview every division. We'll do all the wagers we like. Hall of Fame is July 31st. So we're like a
Oh my
month away.
gosh. Not even
Yeah.
in August.
Yeah,
Jeez.
July 31st this year. So
Wow.
ball will be here before we know it, everyone. Have a good weekend. Talk to you guys in a couple weeks.
See you, buddy.